Hi, welcome to Success Algorithm. In today's episode, we want to look at the hidden costs of unexamined thinking. As you already know, Socrates said in Plato's Apology that the unexamined life is not worth living. Now, what is unexamined thinking? An unexamined thinking is a thinking that is automatic, that is unquestioned, a thinking that is spontaneous, not just intuitive, but a thinking that you naturally, consistently, and very, cunningly filtered away some things that will question the thinking. Okay? So it is not the absence of thinking, but it is a thinking that is reasonable, familiar, but justified. A thinking where you decided that your feeling and your thinking should not be separated, even when you feel you are doing so. So most people assume that thinking happened, assume that thinking happened simply because a decision feels settled. There's something we call second order consequence. Now, if you want to have the right kind of thinking, you must understand second order consequence. Second order consequence is when I have done this and then I get this result, what result will my result get? Sounds tautologous. When I've done this and I get my result, what result will my result get? So when a decision sounds settled, it is not always settled. In reality, many decisions are made on autopilot and only explained afterward. So why the cost of hidden, what are the costs of unexamined thinking? I mean, the costs are hidden. Okay, the costs are hidden, and why are the costs hidden? The costs are hidden because the consequences are delayed. So sometimes you do them very much like disease. They take a lot of time before they can mature. They're incubated, they mature, and then they start doing their havoc. You won't notice until they manifest. That is why every single time you take an action, ask the question of what's the second order consequence. We're going to treat second order consequence soon. Most time, the hidden part of this unexamined thinking is because it feels rational at the beginning, and the mind rewrites the story later, and then you feel that whatever will come out of it, let me do this for now. The truth is unlike obvious errors, biased decisions, they rarely fail immediately. They take some time, but when they start doing their havoc, they drift very quickly. But you see, at the beginning, they will drift very slowly and quietly, making the cost hard to trace back to the cause. Most time, the cause and the costs, CAUSE and COST, the cause and the cost, most time you don't relate them anymore. Now, there are core concepts to understand if you want to understand the unexamined life and the hidden cause. One of them is what we call cognitive bias. Cognitive bias has to do with predictable shortcuts that your mind, your brain has raised and is familiar with that helps you to navigate some kind of thing. There are some heuristics, but they are cognitive, they are knowledge based. So that is one part of the core concept. Another part is justification. Yeah, you explain a decision after it's emotionally, made. You justify it, you explain it out. That's another point you need to hold. The other one is compounding effect. Compounding effect is how small errors accumulate over time. Yes, in this context, how small errors accumulate over time. Most errors are like a leak in the roof. If you leave them, they will keep compounding and compounding until they spoil a lot of things for you. And the fourth concept there is opportunity cost. Now, remember, we are not doing just videos. We are doing training, taking you through series that will change your life, change your decision making forever, and change your destiny. So, opportunity cost has to do with what you lose by choosing one path over another. That's what we call opportunity cost. Now, these four concepts explain why reasonable decisions can still be damaging over time because they were justified, they were not the best, but somehow somebody filtered away some of the most important things. Now, there are a lot of costs, C-O-S-T, there are lots of costs for executives and leaders. Now, one of the costs is that the leader will develop what we call strategic blind spots. It will persist for too long and then will do a lot of damages. Now, the CEO of Nokia, I think Paul Bowman, what's his name again? I've forgotten his name now. You know, he cried when Nokia crashed, when Nokia went down, when Nokia went bankrupt. He cried. You could Google it. He said, "We did everything right and we failed. We did everything right and we failed." Can you imagine? Yes. How could you do everything right and fail? Well, maybe it could be a point of argument. You could do everything right and fail. But the point was that there was strategic blind spot, or there were strategic blind spots that persisted for too long. They thought they were doing everything right, but they didn't know they were doing a lot of things wrong. So insidiously, it was working against them, but they didn't know. Now, another, cost for executive is that past success becomes mental anchor. In other words, because of what you've achieved before, maybe you've made the best result, you've achieved the best sales, so you know the hear word. You don't want to hear anything again. Yeah, I've done it for so long. I know what I'm saying. I can do it. So past success becomes a mental anchor instead of, the future success, knowing that past is past. And like that we say in my client, I get them before not be property. What is past has passed. What is now is what is in vogue is what is before you, and that is what you should concentrate on. Now, because of this, dissent is filtered out emotionally, and dissent becomes something like an attack. Anybody who says, "No, we can do it another way," and you feel the person is attacking you, and all those. The point is, every decision that didn't go through a point, or rather the crucible of dissent, will always have blind spots. So always allow the black heart to actually ask questions. The next thing about cost for executive is that decisions are defended instead of reviewed. Decisions it's like you are fighting war. Everybody who is against it is like fighting against you. At executive level, unexamined thinking doesn't just affect one person. You must know they will affect a lot of people. It scales across teams, it scales across policies, it scales across institutions, it scales across effects, it touches other departments. That is why you must understand the power of the hidden cost of a lot of unexamined thinking we do.